How's it going, guys? Cracked Rack here, and today we're going to be talking about the true crime community and why I dislike a large majority of it. Now, I don't literally hate all of the true crime community, but as a YouTuber who's been in the true crime community since day one of this channel, there's a lot to hate about the community in general. I originally got into the community because I found I was extremely interested in the topic of mass shootings and wanted to study them and teach people about what are essentially the worst crimes America has to offer. However, after years of doing this, I've come across some weird-ass people that we're going to talk about today. We're also going to talk about things that just generally annoy the shit out of me in the community, to the point where I feel completely embarrassed to tell people I make true crime content for a living when I first meet them, because their first thoughts when they hear that are that I'm some school shooter glorifying weirdo who wants to bang the Night Stalker. Anyway, without further ado, here are 5 reasons I hate the true crime community. Number 5. The audience can never get enough. Now, when I say this, I'm not referring to my dedicated audience, I'm referring to people who are huge true crime fans who just happen to stumble upon my videos by accident. But what they'll do is they'll watch all of my true crime videos, which is probably like 25 10-minute documentaries. Then after watching those for hours, they'll comment on all of my videos that I need to cover some random murder case from like 20 years ago that has no relevance to anything, and is extremely similar to many of the cases I've already covered. To this I say, how bored are you? How much of the same exact story can you hear over and over again before you get completely fucking exhausted? I may be biased because I don't really consume true crime content, I just make it. And with that, there's a lot of work that goes into making it, so I'm tired and jaded of the genre in general because of how much shit I've had to read to make videos. But seriously, passive true crime viewers literally can never ever get enough. They just want more and more of the same fucking shit shoveled inside their fucking ears 24/7 for the rest of their lives. These are the type of people who would spend 5 hours putting together a Ted Bundy jigsaw puzzle, which, to be honest, if you're someone that does that, you probably need professional help. Anyway, on to the next point. Number 4, the fetishization. Yeah, so if you aren't a big consumer of true crime content, I've got a little secret for you. A lot of true crime consumers want to have sex with the serial killer they study. It's a really gross and strange phenomenon, but I guess since there's a lot of serial killers that are so infamous, it makes them more mysterious and therefore more sexy. The worst offenders of this is the Columbine community, and yes, I just said that. There is a Columbine community out there. In fact, there's actually hundreds of them. Anyway, the Columbine community is majorly infamous for fetishizing Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Many in this community will write fan fictions about the two having sex, or they'll buy posters of Eric doing a sexy pose and hang it on their bedroom wall or something. It's really disgusting, and I think I recall reading one forum post about a girl who could only get sexually stimulated if she thought about Dylan Klebold getting it on with her. I don't even know how someone can get so fucked up in life that that's what they have to resort to for sexual fantasies. But yes, if you ever see people in a public forum or on YouTube defending a serial killer, which you will because this is very common, there's a huge chance it's because they secretly want to have sex with that serial killer or are in some type of lust with said serial killer. Overall, it's just really disturbing, and I'm glad Tumblr purged its adult section because Tumblr was actually one of the worst hotspots for this type of shit. Number 3, not every serial killer case is all that interesting. I'm sick of the true crime community treating every disappearance or serial killer case as if it's some highly cinematic or interesting event that needs to be heavily studied. Look, serial killers are literally everywhere. The FBI has stated time and time again that there are around 2,000 active serial killers operating in the United States at any given moment, with at least 2 or 3 killers in every major city that are also currently active. Not all of these cases are that interesting. Man feels repressed emotionally and sexually and takes his frustrations out on a prostitute by stabbing her and dumping her body in a river. How many true crime cases could that description fit? Hundreds? The point is, while there are some extremely interesting serial killer cases out there, there's also a horde of awfully boring and generic cases out there that should just be left behind in the dark and shouldn't be given any more media attention. Number 2, the bad content. The true crime community is rife with bad YouTube content and also bad podcast content. Content where random nobodies in their 50s and 60s will just sit in front of their camera in their kitchen while their kids play fucking video games in the background, and they just talk for hours and hours very slowly about a serial killer case. It is the most boring shit in the entire world, and it's one of the most popular genres of content right now. There are like 9 or 10 active channels right now that do this every day and make like 3-hour long, boring shit shitfests relating to killers that all have over like 3 million subscribers. The only two good true crime channels I can really think of off the top of my head are Deadbug, Stephanie Harlow, and maybe Jim Can't Swim. I can hardly think of any other true crime channels that put effort into their content. Well, aside from me, maybe, but I don't want to sound like a narcissistic douche. And it's something that really annoys me because I believe in putting full effort into creative projects. I don't mean to sound like an elitist douche, but these 3 to 4 hour true crime vlogs are just absolute garbage that panders to the algorithm in the absolute worst way possible, through padding out your content to be hours long to farm watch time. On top of this, there's also a plethora of just generally abhorrent true crime podcasts that litter the internet. I'd say there's probably a good 3,000 to 4,000 true crime podcasts currently active right now, and that's just way too many. Anyway, on to the last point. Number 1, the Degenerates. The true crime community has some of the biggest degenerates in the world in it. To give you an example, my Discord server, which is essentially a true crime server, had one user send me a picture of their feces in a toilet bowl, and yes, it was theirs. I've had people in this community try to extort me. I've had people threaten me and stalk me and even dox me for literally no reason at all. There's also a shit ton of people in this community who actually idolize or look up to mass shooters and serial killers and get angry when people talk negatively about said killers. Hell, I've made multiple videos about the women who write serial killers like Chris Watts in prison and confess their love and loyalty to them. Also, almost all of the true crime forums out there are rife with genuine creeps who I do not recommend you ever interact with. There are people on these types of forums who hurt animals, there's people who cut names into their arms with a razor blade and share it with the forums. I could go on for days about the creepy shit I've seen personally go down on true crime related boards and forums. Overall, this community needs to find a way to distance itself from the people who take true crime just a little too far. Anyway, that's all for today's video. If you liked it, like the video, hit the post notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe.